What's up guys, back again with another video in the JDA Utilities and JDA Java Discord bot series. This episode I'm going to teach you how to make a bot that can use an API and also utilizes command arguments.
Got to change my diamonds glistening. VVs hit like this ding. I just wanna fuck, no kissing. Peasant bitches can't kiss kings. No cash register, pockets on ching ching. Might have fucked that bitch, but she ain't my ting ting. Let the bitch sneak a snap.
Okay guys, so we're back, and so basically we haven't used any outside APIs other than the JDA and the JDA Utilities APIs or libraries, whatever you want to call them. So I'm going to teach you how to use this one right here. It's called thumbnail-ator. Basically what it does is it takes an image and then it can resize the image, give it filters, add watermarks to it. It can rotate it. You know, it's an image manipulator basically, okay? And so we're going to utilize this within our program so that we can do some pretty cool stuff, okay? So yeah, so if you want to use it, we have to of course import it somehow. And to do that, we need to find the Maven information, and there it is right here. So we can just copy this. I'll leave it in the link for the code for today's episode in the description. So if you click that link, it'll show all of the code from today's episode, and I'll leave this part in there too. So anyway, just copy this, and we'll go to our POM here, okay? And then I already have mine here, but you want to paste it there with your other dependencies, okay? So that's how you do that. So yeah, we're going to use APIs, but we're also going to learn how to add arguments to our command and add some other extra stuff so we can make our command even more advanced. So yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. So let's go ahead and create a class that we can hold our command inside of. We'll call it image, so the command will be image, I guess we could say. So extends command, of course, not listener adapter, because we're going to be using the JDA utilities. Okay. And so now we need to add the constructor and then our unimplemented method, which is going to be the execute method. So let's add the execute one first. So we have execute, and let's add our constructor for image. So public image, okay, and there we go. And so we'll do something like this. We'll say this.name, which is going to be the command itself. So it'll just be image, okay. And then we'll do here's another cool thing that we can do now. Well, we could always do it, but I'm going to show you. It's called arguments. So this will be basically the message that shows, well, the arguments that show up next to the command whenever you type. Like, for example, you type $help me, because we set help me to be the help word command. So when they type the help me command, it'll send them a message saying all the commands, and next to the image command, we could have, you know, a bunch of arguments next to it, basically saying how to use the command. So I'll show you an example in a minute, but so for example, if we want to add the arguments for image, we can show them that they need to provide a width, they need to provide a height, and image URL, then degrees to rotate. And this one will be optional, so we'll say it's optional right there. And yeah, so I know this was kind of a lot because you don't know what the heck I got this from, but what we're going to be able to do with this command is specify a new height, a new width and height, and then you're going to give it the image URL, so the image itself, and then we're going to specify whether we want to rotate it or not, okay? So that's just telling them how to do that, okay? So if you want to see how this works, I'll show you in a second, but first let's go ahead and get something here to fill it in so we can run it real quick. So do e.reply yes, okay? So anyway, so we have our command here. It looks like it's done being made. So we're going to go ahead and register it here. So builder.add command, and it'll be new image, okay? Or no, yeah, new image, because it's in a different file. And so anyway, so let's go and restart our bot here, and let's check it out. Hopefully it works. So let's try doing this. So we'll do image. Okay, so it gets yes, sends yes back to us because we told it to right here. It says yes whenever we trigger the command, of course. So let's test the arguments part. Let's see if that part worked. So we'll do help me. Okay, it's taking a second to load. Okay, now we were sent a message by the bot, and that's really cool. Look, it says Java bot commands, and then it has the command here, $image, and then it has the arguments part that we added ourselves right here. Width, height, image URL, degrees to rotate, optional. That's really cool. And it says no help available. I'm not sure why. Oh yeah, that's because we haven't provided a description of what the command is. So we can do that by doing this dot help, and this will basically just be the description of the command, what it does. You could do whatever you want here. So I'm gonna just say manipulates images, provide an image link, and you can resize or rotate rotate it. Okay, so just, you know, explanation for the user so they understand how the command works. So let's make sure that works correctly. So we can also type the command in here, help me. It should still work. So yeah, it sends it to us, and now it says manipulates images, provide an image link, and you can resize it or rotate it. So as you can see, it works. So that's really cool. And so yeah, let's actually make the command now. And yeah, so basically the way the you know, the API works that we got is you have to well, it provides you with some static methods, like let me show you here. It will be in here. So okay, this is our command code, so we're gonna put some space there. So yeah, there's a static method here. It's called well, there's multiple, but we do thumbnails to get the actual object or class, whatever, and then we have all these static methods here. And they're static, of course, because we didn't need to declare a new object of thumbnails, of course. But yeah, so these are all your different objects, or methods, I mean. And so what you can do is provide, as you can see, an of, and the of method will take a file, image, URL, or string, whatever you want, and then you could use that to make a new file. It's going to output a file, and you can change the size of the file. You can do multiple things. So you'll see more in a second, don't worry. So let's go ahead and actually start by getting all of the arguments that the person specified with the command. So actually no, we're going to check and see if they provided any arguments at all, because sometimes they just type $image with no arguments, like width or height, image URL, degrees to rotate, anything like that. So what we want to do is tell them to actually specify whether or specify some arguments, because if they don't provide arguments, we don't know what to do, right? So we need to check and see if they provided any arguments. Okay, so we can do that with a simple if statement, of course. And let's say e.getArgs, okay? This is a method that comes with jda-utilities. It's very useful. So yeah, it's very cool. And so we can do equals ignore case that, okay? And that basically is going to be, this is going to be what's returned whenever they don't provide any arguments, okay? Just an empty string. And yeah, so if they provided no arguments, it's going to return the string, and then therefore this if statement is satisfied. So this will run basically. So we'll say something like e.reply. We're going to tell them, if they don't provide any arguments, you did not provide any arguments. And let's get their name. Let's like mention them so that it gets their attention, okay? So e.getAuthor, so the person who sent the, you know, message or command, I mean. And we can get it as a mention, which is going to be like at and then your name. So it's going to like ping you basically, okay? So yeah, basically if they don't type any arguments, this will happen. Let's send another one telling them how to use the command. So basically like the help message would do. So to use the image manipulator, type the command like this, and without brackets, because some people don't have common sense, so they use brackets with their arguments. So image with height, image URL, and then degrees to rotate. And of course that's going to be optional, like we have up there, up here, and boom, boom. Okay, so that should be it. And yeah, so yeah, let's try that out, see what happens. Oh wait, we forgot an else. We need to specify what happens if they do provide arguments. So let's go ahead and do that. So if they do provide arguments, then we're gonna just reply, okay, thank you, just to test it out, you know. So yeah, let's try doing that. Okie dokie. So say image, and they didn't provide any arguments, so it says you did not provide any arguments, TI84 master. That's my cringy name. And then to use the image manipulator, blah blah blah. So it works basically, okay. So let's try providing arguments, like something like that. And it says thank you. So awesome, it works perfectly fine. Okay, cool. So now that we actually got that figured out, we can actually store all of the arguments that they provided in an array, because it's kind of useful. It's going to be useful to actually get the arguments that they provided, so we can do certain things like, store the image URL and stuff like that, okay? So you'll see in a second. So if we want to actually get the arguments, we can do e.get args, and then let's actually convert it or split it by spaces, because each argument is going to have a space in between it, obviously. And there we go. So anyway, this is now going to be a array with all of the arguments, okay? So then we could use that to specify some of the things that we need to use. So we could do something like we could store the height. So the height, or no, the width, because they're giving the width as the first argument. So the width will be equal to 50. Oh, not 50. What am I saying? I mean, it's going to be equal to args, and it's going to be equal to the first ones, the first in the index, of course. Because out of all the args that we stored, the first one is going to be width, of course. So that's why we specify as arg0, as 0 base. So it's going to be the first argument in the array. Sorry. So anyway, we have an error here, and that's because on the right side we have a string, but on the left side we want to store an integer, okay? So of course there's a special method that we have with the integer class. We can parse a string here, so we can turn the string into an integer. And there we go. So that's all we need to do there. And likewise, let's go ahead and store the width, the height that they provided, hopefully. Okay. So we'll store the second argument, because the second argument is going to be height, of course. Okay. And yeah, so remember, whenever you're dealing with the array of arguments, image does not count because we're using the getArgs method, so it's only getting everything after the image command. Okay. So this will be 0, this will be 1, this will be 2, this will be 3. Okay. So anyway. So now we also want to store the image URL that they provided as a string into an actual URL object, so we can use it to do certain things. So we'll name it image URL, so equals new URL. Okay, and then we want to get the third argument, so that's going to be args2. Okay, and looks like we have a problem here. Oh, yeah, okay, so we didn't handle the exception. So whenever you're dealing with stuff like this, I/O and like stuff like that, this is not I/O, but whenever you're dealing with certain things like this, you're going to get a lot of exceptions. So let's just go ahead and handle this. We'll handle every exception just to get it out of the way, because we're going to be dealing with I/O in a second. So we're also going to have to handle some exceptions. So we're just going to handle every exception by doing exception E, okay, instead of handling this one, which is malformed URL exception. So yeah, we're handling all of them, okay. So anyway, so we'll name that EX because we already have E as the right here. So anyway, we're gonna move this inside of here, try, and then we're gonna catch, and we'll just output an exception happened if it ever happens. Okay, so anyway, now that we have that figured out, there's one more thing that we need to store, which is the amount to rotate, which is going to be the fourth argument that they might provide. And remember, the argument is going to be optional. So let's say by default the rotate amount is going to be 0, of course, because it's optional. So if they don't provide a fourth argument, it's just going to know that it's going to be 0. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So what we need to do, if they provide an argument, we can check to see if they did, obviously. So we need to do args.length is equal to 4. So if the amount of arguments that they provided is 4, then go ahead and take the fourth one and store it inside of rotate amount. Okay, and it's going to be 3, of course. But anyway, we have to parse it, of course, but like before, because we want a integer. There we go. So there we go. We stored it in there. And now we can actually access all of the values that they provided, every argument that they provided, and do some stuff with it, okay? And so the main thing that we want to do is actually, manipulate some images, right? And we can do that with the thumbnails thing like we showed before. And then so you want to get an image, right? And so the image can be in multiple formats, right? We can give it a URL, we can give it an input stream, we can give it a buffered image, we can give it a file, we can give it a string. So let's try using URL, okay? So as you can see, URL is one of the parameters that we can use. So let's try, we already have a URL object up here, so let's try putting that in here. Excuse me. Image URL, so there we go. And then we could do, we want to force the size. We don't have to force it, but we can do, there's multiple. We can do size, but sometimes the size is going to be, it's not going to listen to you sometimes. So what I want to do is force size, so we make sure that the size is that whenever we manipulate the image, basically, okay? And so the size is going to be width and height, just like that. We're plugging in the arguments that we just took, right? And so next we want to do, let's see here, the rotate amount. So we can do rotate. That's one of the methods that we can use. And so we'll rotate by the amount that was specified here or here. So we'll do rotate amount, okay? And then now we want to output the file. And so we can specify the output format, and we'll just do PNG. But also we want to specify where to output it. So we can do to output stream, so to an output stream. And we haven't made that output stream yet, so let's go ahead and do that. So we'll do output stream, we'll name it OS for output stream, is equal to new byte array output stream, okay? And there we go. And we're using a byte array output stream because after we output it right here, we're putting OS in there. So now it's going to be outputted to that output stream. Once this is done running, it'll be outputted to here basically. And so we want to convert our output stream to a byte array. And the easiest way to do that is by doing byte. Well, let's have the byte array. So we'll name it byte, and then image in bytes is equal to, and then we could do OS to byte array, okay? And that's gonna, cast it for us basically, okay? And yeah, so basically that's just gonna do that, all right? So I'll explain it more in a second, don't worry. So yeah, so now we have the image stored as a byte array, okay? So now what we're gonna do is find a way to store it, or send it inside of the Discord. So we want to send it as a message, right? We're going to send the file out there as a message. How do we do that? Well, there's actually a way, there's a method just for that. You can actually do e.getChannel, so we can get the channel that the command was sent in, and then we have send file, okay? And as you can see, let's type it out, send file. As you can see, file can take many different parameters, right? But one of them here is byte array, so we can provide a byte array. So let's try doing that. So and also the second parameter is going to be the name of the file, so whenever it's uploaded to Discord servers or whatever. Yeah, so anyway, so let's provide the byte array. So we have this up here, image in bytes, and then let's give it a file of new file, something like that, right? And yeah, so that should work. And of course we have to queue it because we're using this method here. And yeah, so it should be good to go. And yeah, that's actually it, pretty much. So let's see if that works. I know that was a lot, so I'll explain it again in a second. So yeah, let's do image. So yeah, we need to provide an image. We'll do 300 by 300 because that's the width and height, and then we need to give it an image URL according to how it says how to use it. So we need to go into the interwebs and find an image URL. So what I like to use is a website called Unsplash. So you can find a bunch of really, really nice images here for actually free. They're very, very free. Nice and free, deliciously free. And so what you want to do is find the image that you want to, get the URL of, and just right click it and then copy image address, okay? So you can do that pretty much on any image on the internet, I'm pretty sure, at least with Chrome. And so you put that in there. Now we pasted the image URL. So now we want to specify the degrees to rotate if we want to. And I want to specify it, so I'm going to do 45 degrees. So let's see what happens. And boom, we get a new file here. But look how it is. It's not actually an image format. It's kind of weird. It didn't come out as an image basically. So let's try and figure out why that happened. And that's because we didn't actually specify it to be in PNG. And that's a little weird because we already told it to be a PNG, but whenever we're uploading it to the Discord, file server or whatever, it doesn't know that's a PNG, so it doesn't know to display it as, a file, okay? So let's try running this again. So we'll just copy the command from last time. Boom. And there we go. So now look at that. It looks really cool. It's freaking 45 degrees just like we told it to. And so yeah, we have the image outputted. It's 300 by 300. You can measure it with a ruler if you want to, a ruler with pixels on it. Anyway, so we can open it and now it's on Discord server. See, as you can see. So anyway, that's really cool. Really awesome. I hope you like that. So let's make it even more advanced. Let's check it out, okay? So actually first, before we make it even more cooler, let's try explaining it just so if you didn't understand, we could help you understand it. So basically the person is going to type $image to run the command, and the first thing it's going to do is check and see if it provided any arguments, and if no arguments were provided, this is going to run here. And then if they did provide any arguments, it's going to get all the arguments and store it argument by argument inside of an array named arguments or args, and then we're going to store each argument value inside of its own little variable, okay? And we're storing the image inside of a URL object, okay? And so we're going to use that URL object to get the image and then force its size, so basically resizing it, and then we can rotate it if that's what we told it. You know, if we, well, it's going to rotate anyway, but usually it's going to be 0 degrees if you don't provide any, right? So, I mean, it's going to rotate, but it's not going to rotate, basically. But anyway, so then it's going to choose the output format, PNG, and then it's going to output it to a stream, okay? And so we have to choose what that stream is going to be, so we made a stream object up here, and then it's of type byte array output stream so that we can convert it after to a byte array, and there we go. So then now we have the image as a byte array, right? So it's a collection of bytes, and so we need to figure out how we can output it to the server. So we can do that with this method here provided just for us by JDA. Okay, this is not jda-utilities, it's actually JDA by itself, so it's really cool. So anyway, we can provide the byte array, and then we can provide the new file name that was going to be stored on the Discord servers. So hopefully all of that made sense. We're just, you know, using a bunch of magic, okay? So anyway, let's add some, you know, extra stuff like telling them how it went or whatever, or what happened at least. So we'll reply, and we'll say, let's get their attention. So e.getAuthor.get as mentioned, and we'll say something like this, name, and then here is your new image. So then we could say it has been resized to, and then we could specify the dimensions that it was resized to. So width plus x plus height. Okay, so we can give it the dimensions, and now we can specify the rotation amount. So and rotated by, or 2, we'll just do 2, and then we could do the rotate amount because we have that stored as a value, of course. And then we can provide a little sign here. I'm just going to copy and paste it because it's a special sign you don't have on your keyboard. And then there we go. So that's the degrees sign. So anyway, it's going to tell them all of that information, and let's try it out. Okie dokie. Image. We'll do 200 by 50, and let's provide a new image this time. So we'll do something special like, oh, that looks cool, giant library. So we'll copy and paste that inside of here, and then we need to provide how much we want to rotate. So let's provide nothing just to make sure that works. Okay, and boom, there we go. So it resized by 200 by 50 as it tells us, and then it says 0 degrees. Awesome, look at that. That's pretty cool, guys. You have to admit, that's really awesome. So hopefully you made it too. You coded it along with me so you understand the concept that we're doing here, because practice makes permanent, not perfect. So anyway, yeah, I mean, this was a pretty simple command. Well, not simple, actually. It's pretty complex, you know. Pretty simple, but complex if you haven't done it stuff like this before. But if you have any questions about it, just leave a comment or join the Discord. It's in the description if you want to join it. Just ask a question, whatever you want to do. I'll try and answer you. I'll try and help you out if you have any questions at all. Also, we have the code from today's episode. It's in the description. It's a link. Click it, bookmark it, use it as a reference, whatever you want to do for the future, because sometimes you forget code, sometimes you forget how to do things, and yeah. So anyway, hopefully this episode wasn't too confusing, but yeah, so if you liked the video, leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe, and peace.